Have you ever wondered why some people earn more money, yet never really seem to feel wealthy?
Oh, absolutely. It's a huge paradox for so many people. And in The Psychology of Money, Morgan Housel reveals a truth that most of us, frankly, never learn. Financial success isn't about being the smartest person in the room, it's really about mastering your behavior.
Exactly. You'll discover why chasing more can quietly destroy your happiness and why the wealthiest people often look completely ordinary.
Right, and we're going to uncover the hidden mistake that keeps people trapped no matter how much they earn. What this book reveals next can completely change the way you think about money.
And the most powerful lesson is still ahead. Hello, everyone. You are tuning in to Book Banny English, where books come to life.
In every video, we bring you the true essence of the world's best books, ensuring that the core message of each book deeply touches your heart.
Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so our latest videos reach you first. So let's begin a new journey into the world of books.
Let's do it.
So jumping right in, think about this. In what other profession on earth could a rural gas station janitor with absolutely no college degree massively outperform a Harvard-educated executive?
I mean, literally nowhere else, right?
Right. If you need a heart transplant, you don't go to a janitor who read a few pamphlets.
No, definitely not.
Or if you want a skyscraper built, you don't hire the guy who sweeps the floors.
Yeah.
But in the world of personal finance, that is exactly what happens.
It's the ultimate paradox. We are so conditioned to look at success in any complex field and just expect a clear mathematical formula.
We want it to be like structural engineering.
Exactly. You calculate the load, you pour the concrete, and the bridge holds. We desperately want money to follow the strict, measurable laws of physics, Yeah. but it just continually defies that logic.
Because that calculator is completely broken when it comes to human beings.
Yeah, we aren't spreadsheets.
No, we're not.
Yeah.
And to master money, you really have to master yourself first.
Right. The data, the income, the formulas. They are practically useless if you don't understand what's happening inside your own head. And to prove that behavior completely outweighs intelligence, we just have to look at the tale of two incredibly different men, Ronald Read and Richard Fuscone.
I am so obsessed with this contrast. Break down exactly who Ronald Read was.
So, Ronald Read was about as unassuming as it gets. He was a rural janitor in Vermont. He fixed cars at a gas station for 25 years, and then he just swept floors at JCPenney for another 17 years.
Wow. Just a totally regular guy.
Completely. Lived in a two-bedroom house he bought for like $12,000. His main hobby was literally chopping firewood. No trust fund, no elite network, nothing like that.
And yet, when he passed away in 2014 at the age of 92, he made international headlines.
He did, because out of the nearly 3 million Americans who died that year, fewer than 4,000 had a net worth over $8 million.
That's insane.
Yeah, and Ronald Read was one of them. He left $2 million to his stepkids and $6 million to his local hospital and library.
And just to clarify, there was no lottery win here, right? No secret inheritance. He just saved what little he could, invested in blue chip stocks, and waited decades. He simply let compounding work its magic.
That's all it was, patience.
Now hold that image of Ronald Read in your mind and contrast him with Richard Fuscone. Because Fuscone is, well, he's everything Read is not.
Oh, right. Harvard educated, an MBA, a wildly successful executive at Merrill Lynch.
He was the guy you'd expect to just completely win the financial game.
Oh, absolutely. He was highly praised for his business savvy. He was so successful, he actually retired in his 40s to become a philanthropist.
Wow, in his 40s.
Yeah. But he also borrowed heavily to expand this massive 18,000 square foot mansion in Connecticut. I mean, a house with 2 elevators, 2 pools, 7 garages.
Which is just a staggering amount of upkeep. And then 2008 happened. The financial crisis hit.
And he was obliterated. High debt and illiquid assets left him entirely bankrupt. That same Connecticut mansion was sold in a foreclosure auction for 75% less than its estimated value. And the craziest part, this happened just months before Ronald Read, the janitor, left his $8 million fortune to charity.
That is just wild to think about. A janitor out investing a Merrill Lynch executive.
It really proves that the way you behave around money is infinitely more important than how smart you are.
And honestly, before we dive deeper into why we behave the way we do, I just want to mention something. If you want to fully experience this book, consider reading the original version. You'll find the purchase link in the YouTube product section.
Yeah, it's highly recommended. But going back to behavior, this leads to a fascinating realization. No one is actually crazy when it comes to their money.
even if their decisions look completely irrational from the outside.
Exactly. It's a huge perspective shift. Every single person's view of money is shaped by their unique generation, their parents, the specific microeconomy they were born into.
Right, like you think you know how the world works, but your personal experiences make up maybe a tiny fraction of a percent of what's actually happened in the world.
Yeah, but those tiny experiences dictate 80% of how you think the world works.
There's that great historical example of John F. Kennedy. When JFK was running for president, a reporter asked him what he remembered from the Great Depression.
Oh, this is a great story.
Yeah, and he basically admitted he had zero firsthand knowledge of the suffering. His family had one of the great fortunes of the world. Well, people were literally starving. The Kennedys had bigger houses, more servants.
Right, totally insulated.
Completely. He actually said he only learned about the true depths of the Depression by reading about it in a textbook at Harvard.
Which is just wild to think about. Compare JFK's understanding of the economy to a stockbroker who lost everything and jumped out of a window in 1929.
Or someone who grew up sharing a single pair of shoes with their siblings.
Exactly. You can read about fear and poverty in a textbook, but you cannot genuinely recreate the emotional scars of living through it. Your brain just doesn't wire itself the same way.
Okay, so I have a major pushback question for you here.
Okay, let's hear it.
I get that we all have different backgrounds and different emotional scars. But aren't some decisions just objectively mathematically bad?
Give me an example.
Like, look at the lottery. How can buying lottery tickets when you're completely broke be anything but crazy? I mean, most people completely miss this when they defend bad spending habits.
That is a really great point. And on a spreadsheet, it looks entirely crazy. The data actually shows that the lowest income households in the US spend roughly 4 times more on lottery tickets than the highest income groups.
Right. And these are often the very same people who couldn't even scrape together $400 for an emergency. So why blow the money on scratch-offs?
Because people don't make decisions purely on spreadsheets. They make decisions based on what feels emotionally necessary in the moment.
Emotionally necessary.
Yeah, if you strain a little to see their perspective, you can uncover the subjective rationality. Imagine living paycheck to paycheck. Your wages are stagnant. Buying a house or paying for your kids' college feels mathematically impossible.
Okay, I'm with you.
A middle-class person looks at $2 and sees a tiny fraction of a mutual fund share. But a person in systemic poverty looks at that same $2, realizes compounding will never save them, and uses it to buy a dream.
Wow. They're literally paying for the feeling of hope.
Precisely. It's the only time they get to vividly imagine having the good stuff that wealthier people just take for granted. You might not understand paying $2 for a momentary dream, but that's only because you are already living a version of one.
That completely flips the script. It's still a mathematically terrible idea,
Yeah.
but the mechanism behind it makes complete emotional sense.
Right. It's about empathy, not just math.
But wait, if our environments shape our worldview like that, how does that explain the exact opposite end of the spectrum? What about the people who already have unimaginable wealth, yet they risk it all just to get a little bit more?
Well, modern capitalism is fundamentally built to do two things incredibly well: generate massive wealth and generate massive envy.
Which makes the concept of enough almost impossible to grasp.
Exactly. The hedonic treadmill never stops.
There's this amazing anecdote about the authors Kurt Vonnegut and Joseph Heller. They are at a party hosted by this billionaire hedge fund manager.
Oh, from Catch-22, right.
Yeah, Joseph Heller wrote Catch-22. So Vonnegut taps Heller on the shoulder and points out that their host made more money in a single day than Heller had earned from his wildly popular novel over its entire history.
And Heller's response is just profound. He looks at Vonnegut and simply says, "Yes, but I have something he will never have. Enough."
Enough. It is such a simple, quiet word, but it's the rarest commodity in finance. When you lack a sense of enough, the goalposts just never stop moving.
Right, because social comparison is a battle that mathematically cannot be won. The ceiling is infinite.
Yeah, there's always someone richer.
Always. A rookie baseball player making $500,000 a year feels rich until he stands next to Mike Trout making $36 million.
Right.
And Mike Trout feels amazing until he meets a hedge fund manager making $340 million. And that hedge fund manager feels completely inadequate looking at Jeff Bezos. If your expectations rise faster than your income, you are trapped.
And that's exactly why you see people like Rajat Gupta and Bernie Madoff self-destruct, right?
Exactly.
I mean, Gupta was a self-made multimillionaire. He sat on the board of Goldman Sachs. He had $100 billion. And yet he went to prison for insider trading. Why?
Warren Buffett actually summarized the psychology of guys like Gupta and Madoff perfectly. He said, to make money they didn't have and didn't need, they risked what they did have and did need.
Wow, that is
When
powerful.
your ego is tied to being richer than the guy next to you, you will artificially inflate your risk tolerance until a catastrophic loss is basically an inevitability.
Which forces us to look at the uncomfortable reality of the twins, luck and risk. We love to think 100% of our outcomes are driven by 100% of our own effort.
But they just aren't. We are each one person in a highly complex game with 8 billion other people.
Right, the accidental impact of forces completely outside our control, like where you were born, who you met, what year you graduated into the job market, they can be vastly more consequential than your conscious actions.
Absolutely.
I always think about it like this. Praising someone solely for their financial success without acknowledging luck is like watching a coin land on heads, and then praising the flipper's incredible wrist technique while completely ignoring the existence of gravity.
That is a phenomenal analogy. We hyper-focus on the risk technique because we want an easy formula to mimic. We want to know exactly what time a billionaire wakes up or what they eat for breakfast, as if that's the secret.
Like doing an ice plunge is going to make you a millionaire.
Right. Take Cornelius Vanderbilt, for example. He built a massive railroad empire.
Mhm.
At one point, an advisor told him that his business deals were blatantly breaking the law.
Oh,
And Vanderbilt's response was just, and I got the power.
and he got away with it.
He did.
Yeah.
But the line between bold and reckless is a millimeter thick. If Vanderbilt had drawn a strict judge, been indicted, and lost everything, history would remember him as a reckless criminal who let his ego destroy him. But because the coin landed on heads, we call him a bold visionary.
Okay, so if the world is full of this unpredictable gravity, this messy mix of luck and risk, how on earth do you actually hold on to your money once you get it?
Well, you have to realize that getting wealthy and staying wealthy are two completely different skill sets. They actually require opposing mindsets.
Yeah, getting wealthy is like driving a drag race.
Mm.
You floor the gas, you take massive risks, you're deeply optimistic, and you kind of ignore the wear and tear on the engine because the goal is sheer speed.
Right, and staying wealthy is like the 24 hours of Le Mans.
The endurance race.
Exactly. The goal is no longer top speed. The goal is endurance. It's keeping the car on the track and not blowing the transmission. Staying wealthy requires humility, extreme frugality, and, honestly, a healthy dose of paranoia.
And so many brilliant people cannot make that transition.
Have you heard the story of Jesse Livermore?
I know the name. Early 20th century trader. Right.
Yes, one of the greatest stock traders in history. By his early 30s, he had amassed the inflation-adjusted equivalent of $100 million. In 1929, when the market crashed and the Great Depression began, Livermore correctly shorted the market. He made billions while everyone else on Wall Street was losing their shirts. He was a certified genius.
So what's the psychological mechanism there?
Mhm.
How does a guy who is that smart end up ruining himself?
Because that massive early success bred a ruinous overconfidence. When you win that big, your brain tricks you into attributing 100% of that success to your own infallible genius.
You completely discount the role of luck.
Exactly. Livermore got a swelled head. His risk tolerance inflated massively. He started taking larger and larger bets on the market, convinced he could predict every single movement.
And let me guess, the market humbled him.
Severely. Within just 4 years, he lost everything and tragically took his own life.
Man, that is awful. So he failed the endurance test. He didn't leave any room for error. But what does room for error actually look like for you and me? Is it literally just hoarding cash under a mattress, or is it more of a psychological mindset?
It's both, really, but the physical cash buffer creates the psychological mindset. Margin of safety isn't just about being a conservative investor. It's about ensuring your own survival.
Survival is a strong word.
But it's accurate. If you have a frugal budget and a 6-month emergency fund, you don't have to panic sell your retirement stocks at the absolute bottom of a market crash just to pay your mortgage. You survive.
And survival is the only thing that allows compounding to actually work, because compounding is incredibly unintuitive to the human brain. We think linearly, but compounding works exponentially.
But only if it is completely uninterrupted. You have to survive long enough to experience what we call tails, the extreme outlier events.
Right.
In finance, tails drive everything. A tiny fraction of your decisions will dictate the vast majority of your outcomes.
I always think of that Napoleon quote. A genius is the man who can do the average thing when everyone else around him is losing his mind.
That's the secret. You don't have to make brilliant trades every day. You just have to survive the punctuated moments of sheer terror without doing something stupid.
But this next idea changes everything. Because if staying wealthy requires this kind of invisible endurance, frugality, and humility, it completely redefines what rich actually looks like out on the street.
Oh, definitely.
Think about the last time you were at a stoplight and a pristine $100,000 Ferrari pulled up next to you. I want you to literally analyze your internal monologue in that moment. You rarely think, wow, the guy driving that car is so cool. I deeply admire him.
No, your brain doesn't care about the driver at all. You think, wow, if I had that car, people would think I was cool.
Yes, this is the man in the car paradox. We use conspicuous wealth to signal to others that we should be liked and admired.
But the cruel irony is that the people watching don't admire you. They bypass you entirely. They use your luxury object as a mirror to project themselves into your place.
It completely defeats the purpose of buying the luxury good in the first place.
There's a great cautionary tale about a guy named Roger. He was the epitome of success in his neighborhood. He drove a brand new Porsche. Everyone assumed he was incredibly wealthy.
And then what?
Well, then one day, he pulls out of his driveway in a beaten-up old Honda.
What happened to the Porsche?
It got repossessed. He defaulted on the loans, which proves a vital point. The only objective data point you actually have when you see someone driving a $100,000 car is that they currently have $100,000 less in their bank account than they did before they bought it.
Or worse, $100,000 more in toxic debt.
Yeah.
I love the anecdote about the singer Rihanna. A few years ago, she nearly went bankrupt. She was bleeding cash, so she sued her financial advisor for mismanagement.
Right. And the advisor's legal response was both hilarious and profoundly true. He basically said, was it really necessary to tell her that if you spend money on things, you will end up with the things and not the money?
It's the ultimate blind spot. When people say, I want to be a millionaire, what they almost always mean is, I want to spend $1 million.
Which is literally the exact opposite of being a millionaire.
Right. Wealth is what you don't see. Wealth is the cars not purchased, the diamonds not bought, the first-class upgrades declined.
And this is exactly why it is so difficult to build wealth. Society trains us to learn by imitating success. But because true wealth is inherently invisible, it's just numbers sitting quietly in an index fund or a paid-off mortgage, you can't see it.
You can only see the spending.
Exactly. So we imitate the spending, thinking we are imitating the wealth.
And in doing so, we spend away the money, completely missing out on its greatest intrinsic value. Which, by the way, if you want to fully experience this book and dive into these concepts yourself, consider reading the original version. You'll find the purchase link in the YouTube products section.
You won't regret it. But back to that intrinsic value, you're talking about the highest dividend money pays.
Yes. Back in 1981, a psychologist named Angus Campbell published this massive study on happiness. He wanted to find the common denominator of joy. He looked at income levels, geography, education, demographics.
And none of it was a consistent predictor.
None of it. What Campbell found was that the most powerful predictor of happiness was having a strong sense of controlling one's life. More than your salary, more than the size of your house. It was the ability to do what you want, when you want, with who you want, for as long as you want.
Unspent assets give you that autonomy. That is the invisible magic. If you have a small buffer of wealth, you can take a sick day without panicking about rent.
Exactly. If you have 6 months of expenses saved, you aren't terrified of a toxic boss because you can just walk away. True wealth isn't luxury. True wealth is flexibility.
This raises an important question, though. To achieve this invisible wealth, to actually get that ultimate time freedom, we need an investing strategy we can stick to over the course of 30 or 40 years.
Right, which means we have to completely abandon the cold, robotic rationality of the spreadsheet we talked about at the beginning. Being mathematically rational is vastly inferior to being psychologically reasonable.
To understand why, you have to look at one of the most bizarre medical stories in history. In the late 19th century, there was a psychiatrist named Julius Wagner Jauregg.
Okay.
At the time, syphilis was a fatal, incurable disease. But Wagner Jauregg noticed a strange pattern. Syphilis patients who happened to contract severe fevers sometimes recovered.
Okay, so a high body temperature cooks the bacteria.
Exactly. So he hypothesized that the best treatment for fatal syphilis was to intentionally infect patients with malaria.
Wait, He intentionally gave people malaria. That is horrific.
It is deeply horrific.
Yeah.
But mathematically, biologically, it was rational. The fever killed the syphilis. In fact, it worked often enough that he actually won a Nobel Prize for it.
Wow.
But ask yourself, is it reasonable to inject a human being with a deadly, agonizing disease to cure another one?
Absolutely not.
No. And believe it or not, we do a version of this with our money.
Yeah, we totally do. The textbook might say that a 22-year-old should use massive leverage take on huge debt to buy volatile tech stocks because historically, over a 40-year timeline, the market always goes up. Mathematically, that is 100% rational, but it is deeply unreasonable because human beings are emotional creatures. The moment that leveraged portfolio drops by 40%, you will panic, lose sleep, and sell everything at the absolute bottom, locking in your ruin.
What's fascinating here is how the very people who invent these mathematical models actually manage their own money.
Oh, this is great.
Take Harry Markowitz. He won a Nobel Prize in economics for creating complex, mathematically optimal models of risk and return. He literally wrote the formula on diversification.
So how did the Nobel laureate invest his own retirement money?
He simply split it 50-50 between stocks and bonds.
The guy who invented the math didn't even use his own math. Why?
Because he recognized he wasn't a spreadsheet. When asked about it, he said his goal wasn't to maximize his returns. His goal was to minimize his future regret. He just wanted a portfolio that allowed him to sleep soundly at night.
He aimed for reasonable, not rational.
Exactly. The mathematically optimal strategy is completely useless if the anxiety it causes forces you to abandon it during a bear market.
Because every financial endeavor has an invisible price tag. If you buy a new car, you know it costs $30,000. The price is right there on the sticker. But the price of successful investing isn't paid in dollars.
No, it's paid in a much harder currency. It's paid in volatility, fear, doubt, uncertainty, and regret. That emotional toll is the admission fee you have to pay for the market's long-term gains.
And the problem is, people constantly try to get the reward without paying the fee. It's like being a car thief.
How so?
Well, if you want a car, you can pay the sticker price, you can buy a cheaper used one, or you can steal it. With investing, people try to steal the returns by dodging the volatility.
Okay.
They jump in and out of the market. They buy heavily marketed mutual funds that promise to capture all the upside while protecting against the downside.
But the money gods do not let you get something for nothing. Eventually, the volatility catches you, and the penalty for trying to dodge the fee is always far worse than if you had just accepted the fear and held steady in the first place. Pay the price. Accept the volatility.
So what does this all mean? If we synthesize this entire deep dive, it comes down to this. Financial success is an endurance game. It's not about being the smartest person in the room with the most complex spreadsheet.
No, it's about checking your ego. It's understanding that true wealth is the invisible stuff. It's the unspent savings.
It's leaving a wide enough margin of safety so you can survive the crazy, unpredictable dips of life. And ultimately, it's about using your money not to buy things, but to buy back your time, because autonomy is the only thing that actually moves the needle on human happiness.
It requires a complete reframing of what money is actually for. We've talked about how wealth is what you don't see and how everyone is playing a slightly different game based on their own invisible emotional experiences. So I want to leave you with something to really mull over tonight.
Let's hear it.
How much of your current financial stress is just you holding yourself to the rules of a game you don't actually want to play?
Oh, that is a fantastic question to chew on. You don't have to keep running on the treadmill just because the person next to you is running faster. Build your financial life for your own peace of mind, not for the people watching you at the stoplight.
Well said.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
And comment below which book you'd like to hear next.
At Book Bunny English, where books come to life.